I was drafted into the Army in January 20th, 1941. I was sworn in at Fort Hays in Columbus, Ohio.
We had a job that the country had to get done, and I was going to be a minute part of that, but I wanted to be part of it. And so I volunteered for a commission on December 8th.
We all knew that we were going to have to go, and we wanted to go first and pick out what we wanted. Never gave it a thought of why. I was mad.
I had heard that if you go down and enlist, you stand a stronger chance of getting into the branch of service that you want. Well, wouldn't you know, I wound up in the combat engineers, and I found out a month later that the group that I should have been in went to, guess what, the Air Force.
July 1st of 1943, I went into the V-12 program, and they sent me back to Denison in the V-12 program.
We were finally overrun in April 1942. Following our surrender, following that was when the so-called Death March took place.
I had a medical detachment of 25 enlisted medics. It was our job to take care of them for just routine matters, sick call, and also to take care of them when they were wounded.
We were strafers, which means that we flew right on the treetops, and they put 8 forward-firing 50 caliber machine guns.
We put, I don't know how many of these Bailey bridges we put up, but probably a dozen or more Bailey bridges were put up in different locations. And as I say, the shortest ones were usually the ones that were under the most combat conditions.
We would sit offshore so many half-mile, something like that, and they would do the pre-invasion bombardments. The B-24s would fly over and drop bombs, and the big ships, the cruisers, things like that, would fire through you. And the first time anyone fired over us, everybody dug a hole in the steel deck. I mean, that noise is tremendous. I mean, it really wakes you up. And it was just shells going over. And then after they'd softened the beach up, then we would take our ship right on, drop the anchor about maybe 100 yards before we hit the beach, let the cable out, and then the 200 troops would go down the 2 ramps on the side. And in the meantime, there would be, bombs going off here and over here and everything else. They
made that hike out there 65 miles. Those that made the hike, we went up to San Fernando and was without food or water. Or in the heat of the day, they would run us out into our rice paddy, take our hats away, and give us what they called the sun treatment. And then long toward evening, while we'd finished that day's march, and a lot of fellows never got up. They just died where they were from the heat.
I got my left engine hit by anti-aircraft, and we landed in the water, and I got out and pulled the life raft out, and I got everybody out, and we sat in the life raft for about 10 hours. I was 22 years old, and I was the youngest man on the crew, but I was the commander. Just starting to get dark, and I heard a noise, and we looked over in the distance, and we saw a big plane, and behind it were some little planes, and we didn't know whether they were the Japanese or ours, and so I had to make a decision. So I stood up and fired a flare gun, and they all turned around and started at us, and it turned out to be our plane.
As we went deeper into Germany, we became aware of the concentration camps. We became aware of the millions of people who had died in the camps, and that had a tremendous impact on all of us.
And this particular Jap put me on this one pile to shovel it, and after he left, another Jap come along, and he put me on another pile. And when the first Jap came back, he found out I wasn't there, and he found me, and then he worked me over with a shovel. He knocked me down a few times and didn't suffer any permanent injury that I know of, other than my pride.
Make no doubt about it. War is hell. It's been said over and over and over again. It can't be said enough. War is hell.